Development of the scenarios. We've developed 5 scenarios, and I'll talk about those in a bit more detail in a moment. And as I've mentioned, these are linked to the outcomes of the research. This is what we felt was important. It's also trying to link these scenarios to the development of technologies. And so therefore, when we look at the scenarios, you'll find different scenarios and modules will use different technologies. Underpinned in this activity is the competence of the end users, the teachers, how they feel able to confidently use the technology. So we look at what is required, what is the existing level of the participants, and we build in this notion of continued learning, which I mentioned a moment ago. Okay. Right. Development scenarios was a recognition of multiple needs. We need to know how to do things, but that is driven by what knowledge we wish to impart and what our existing skills are already. Now, skills here are not to do just simply with ICT skills. They're to do with the teaching skills and the knowledge of the particular teacher participant. So the scenarios we developed. Communication and networking. This scenario, it's contained in the book. I've got an English version of the book, but fortunately there is a German version of this, so it's all outlined in there. Communications, and I would talk about scenarios very briefly, and then if you've got questions about the individual scenarios, those folk in a partnership who've written those scenarios will give you flesh out in a bit more detail. Communication and networking. This is really about how to use the existing communication and networking tools in a teaching activity. This is not teaching about the tools that are available. This is about using the tools that are available to carry out a particular activity. Now, that activity can be of any kind at all inside the classroom, but how we should use the technology. So it looks at things like the benefits of virtual communication. It will think about, for example, creating protocols for communication. What are the issues to do with using online chat rooms and the like? What protocols or guides need to be used in that sort of activity? Those are the goals of the scenario. Then we have a look at, for example, criticism and reflection. And criticism and reflection, this is a module or a scenario which acknowledges that there are social, political and economic issues associated with information communications technology. You know, how the technology is used, for example, in a political environment. It may well be, I'm hoping that somebody at this very minute is doing research on how mobile technology is being used to organise resistance against Sarkozy's plans to cut pensions in France. No doubt somewhere along the line there'll be a PhD coming out of that, which will make very interesting reading. Basically, this module, this scenario, is about asking students to think about the technologies they use and the implications it has for society. Digital content looks at the kinds of technologies that are available and how this content can be used. And digital content here is to do with the images, the podcasts, the video casts, things that we're all familiar with, YouTube videos and the rest of it. How can these be used in the teaching of a particular subject or employed in the activity of a particular class? Game-based and play-based learning. This is really saying, this is acknowledging that many people use the technologies to play games. Many people use the technologies to play games online. How can we turn this on its head? How can we use this technology to help us in our teaching? And mobile learning, this is using the mobile technologies that exist, that we can be independent of space and indeed to a certain extent of time. We can have synchronous and asynchronous communications, and we can build this into a whole range of kinds of activities. Now, those are the scenarios in very brief, but there are specific, the scenarios have a specific structure. So we have the goals and learning outcomes. Each scenario describes what the learning outcomes of this particular activity will be. So, for example, the goals for the mobile learning will be, can the participant very basically, describe what mobile learning is? Can the participant reflect on the choices of using mobile devices in the teaching? These are the learning outcomes. Then we look at a range of themes that can be explored. To what extent does the technology allow independence of time and space? What are the options using mobile technology for collaboration at distance? What are the issues associated with the management, coordination and planning of using these technologies? And then we talk about specific tools that can be used, the software and hardware that's available to participants, to trainers, to teachers, that they can use in carrying out these kinds of activities. Now, so far, so good. We've got our product, we've got our plan, let's test it. And the testing was a critical aspect of this activity. I go back to the beginning. The only people who make mistakes are the people who do things. We've done something, we're now going to test it, and we're going to learn from our mistakes. And that was okay, that was fine. There was testing in all partner countries. Every country involved in the project tested the scenarios. And immediately you appreciate this, therefore, is a multilingual environment that we're involved in here. Extensive evaluation was provided by pilot participants, and Gerhard is here today, who was one of the people who tested it, and I'm sure he will give an honest, if asked, he will give an honest assessment of what he thought of the program. And it was also looked by, the platform was looked at by an independent evaluator. We took all this criticism on board, we welcomed it, embraced it as you'd expect us to do, revised the scenarios, revised the e-learning platform, and now we're in the process of developing a training manual that will enable trainers to use the product effectively. We're now involved in dissemination expansion of the project, and this is why we have this conferences like this. We gave a talk at a conference yesterday. This has already been integrated. The plans are to integrate these scenarios, this program, into the University of Santiago de Compostela training course. We've got plans for the same thing to happen in the University of West Hungary, the Pedagogical High School in Vienna that will take on board this activity. And we expect to see hopefully a significant take-off of this particular project as it spreads. We're also hoping to get ECDL accreditation. So, in short, this program that we've been involved in for the last 2 years has come up with something which has a range of possibilities. It seeks to narrow the gap between what is possible and what is going on at the moment. And hopefully, in this way, we can start to narrow the gap, push teaching of ICT or the use of ICT in a range of different teaching into schools. And that's where we are at the moment. Thank you very much.